I guess I'll start it off. My name's Doug Morse. I'm from the BSC group. I'm here with Ethan. Ethan, I'm not going to try to kill your last name. What's your last name?
Yeah, so my name is Ethan Sneesby. I'm also with BSC Group.
And we're here just to go over some of the parameters and some of the things that we've discovered in some due diligence that we've done on the park. Also here from the town is Paul, the town planner, and you are our client, the town. And I have if I can share my screen, I have a little bit more detail of something where we were thinking about proposing, or just to give an idea of the thought that we're put into at least initially what we have here. And I think it'll give you a little better perspective on some of the topography and also the stream and the wetlands on the site. So let me do that.
Yeah, hopefully it'll work.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So basically this is a park right next to the town hall, which is right there's the shadow. If you can see my cursor and hand there.
Yes.
This is Warren Street going up and Church Street here, and then North Main is here. The church is right here, and the park is somewhat of a triangular piece that goes up to the northern part here along Warren Street. And in talking with the town and the group that's sort of pushing forward on this, the idea is just to give a place where people could come to the center of the town and go to like a centrally located spot within the park and sit and sort of enjoy the park and the nature that it provides. It's a wooded park completely. There is a little bit of topography on the western side of the park. It looks like there's been some dumping over the years, but it does come down fairly steeply. And I'm not sure if our topography really clearly defines it, but there's a fairly steep slope coming from the top of the park here along this property line down. And it comes down about, roughly 8 to 10 feet down before it starts to level off through here. And then we hit an area which is definitely a resource area. It looks like there's some BVW there, and then there's also an existing stream. And I'm going to let Ethan get into that a little bit more, but the thinking was to keep this, a very simple park, something that maybe where there is a kiosk or some sort of historical information on the town center, and just a place where people could, get some information on the history of the town, and then also just to sort of stop on their way. This is sort of going to be a park and a pathway that's going to hopefully eventually in the town be part of a much larger pathway and connection through the town with a series of paths that connect to different parts of the town. So I believe, Paul, if I'm correct, this would probably be one of the first parts of that, sort of connection and a connection through paths through the town.
Yeah, hopefully this is the first step among many. Yes.
Yeah. So the thought here was just we would have our pathway would connect to the parking lot that's right here and come up into here in a centrally located spot that's fairly flat, and then the path would just continue up to the north. And at some point it would cross over to Church Street. Maybe that's a pedestrian bridge over the stream. There is a potential to even avoid that and come up in here where the grades are a little bit steeper, but the pathway could eventually work its way up into here. I think the idea was to make a connection to the church without disturbing much of their parking or really being sort of centralized in the center of the park here and crossing, which is a much wider area of resource areas anyways. So that's really the thought. I think given the constraints environmentally, the pathway would be a pervious material of some kind, something that could be maintained, for snow, but also would allow for some infiltration. And the dark dashed line here is the 30-foot no disturb buffer from the edge of the wetland, which is this thin double dashed line that runs through here. And then the stream, you can just sort of start making it out on this aerial that it runs essentially on the western side or eastern side of the park. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ethan, who can speak a little bit more about the resource areas on the property.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so the stream and the wetland system are a fairly typical BVW sort of bordering vegetated wetland, with the steeper topography being up towards Church Street, and then it sort of transitions down into a bit of a lower gradient area. The wetland sort of balloons out in that area. It's pretty thin up near the culverts to the north, and then it sort of spreads out along with the topography. It tracks pretty well down towards the Warren Street, and then curves back in, sort of bounded by the parking lot, and comes back into the stream. The stream channel then is sort of channelized through what appear to be old large cobble sections that then send it underneath North Main Street through another culvert. The stream itself is mapped on USGS as an intermittent stream. It has around a 0.27 acre watershed. It's sort of borderline whether or not it would be considered perennial or intermittent. And the wetland is basically a forested red maple sort of low-lying area. It transitions down into a more of a mucky swamp along the edge of the stream in the wider area, sort of near where that lot area is, right there, the circular lot. And it then transitions into sort of like a sugar maple upland to the in the upslope area. The upslope area definitely has some impacts from filling over the years, perhaps some yard waste. There's a stone wall there that's in a bit of disrepair as well. But the wetland system, is bounded mostly by topography in this area. And just generally speaking, along the Church Street side, it's a pretty steep slope down to the bank, with no BVW on that side. The bank is it drops almost probably about 7-ish feet down from the parking lot to the stream bank in that area. And then it's just sort of a gravel bottom, sandy bottom stream all the way through. There's definitely some evidence of high flows up at the culverts near the top. There's a fair amount of sort of washout contained within it, probably receiving that from maybe road runoff or something along those lines. And there's a bit of a large divot in the stream there that's sort of like where the water outfalls into it. And then it levels out for the rest of the stream down towards North Main Street. And so it's generally speaking the wetland resource that's on site, partially forested and then partially herbaceous in the swampier areas.
Now, Mary, did you have a chance to look at this spot?
Yeah, I was there on a site visit, and Did look at it. Since it's a preliminary discussion, I didn't look very closely at the wetland line or anything. We did discover, I thought maybe that there was a fair bit of Norway maple in there as well.
In the upland?
No,
Or-
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yep. That could definitely be the case, yeah. Yeah, I was, I thought I saw some sugar maples, but I might be recalling incorrectly, honestly.
So it, maybe a lot of Norway maples. So, but yeah, I think, I think maybe the question before the commission is, if a trail is to go through, would it have to be outside of the 30-foot buffer, or could it, skirt the edge there? Because the 30-foot buffer is kind of near where those steep slopes are. And, what would the commission like to see for that? I think it's kind of, you guys are looking for guidance on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we are kind of bounded by the wetland on the eastern side, and then a very steep slope on the western side. But there is a fairly large area that is level enough to sustain some sort of pathway and probably a small little gathering space. And given the amount of saplings out here, and the forest is loaded with just saplings of maple saplings. So it's quite likely that there is, at least there are some anyways, there are some Norway maples out here that are contributing to that. So I guess we're just looking for some input from the commission on really not the design necessarily, but just what kind of limitations and what kind of options we would have to create some sort of pathway and small gathering space.
This is Chris. I would suggest for your filing to have this design and then also map out where the trail would go and then where the gathering space would go. And then we can work from there. Does anyone have suggestions of where this could be?
Could he just run his cursor again over the line that he thought the trail would go and the gathering spot?
So the trail would begin off the existing parking lot here. And again, partly the reason for doing this is that the topography here it starts to get a little bit steep going up towards Warren Street.
Yeah.
So we're looking for something that was a little bit level to come in. And the pathway would sort of meander up into here. And this particular space is where the wetland line goes a little bit in towards the east.
Mm-hmm.
So it provides us a little bit more space to fit a localized or a centralized gathering place between the slope and the wetland, and then trying to stay as close to or outside the 30-foot as we could as we head north to a point wherever wherever it makes sense to cross out to Church Street.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, for the gathering space, would you envision having picnic tables or something?
It would just be, I really think at this point, we haven't given it an awful lot of thought to it, but no, it would be more in lines with something that you would see in New England, small pocket park that would just have benches and maybe some historical information in a kiosk or plaques. It would not be someplace where I think we would want people to picnic per se, but just benches.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other questions or comments?
Yeah, it's just Mike. I'm wondering what the surface of the trail will be. You mentioned it would be pervious, but is the intention to have an accessible trail?
Yeah, yes. So it would have to be something that would be material that would have to be. You could run a snow blower over it, or maintain it to a point that it could still be accessible
Accessible in
throughout.
terms of, say, wheelchair accessible is what I.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And that is partly some of the thought going into where the path goes, especially to the north. We tried to hold close to the 300 contour, which runs from here and then it ties back in here, and the path tends to follow it all the way out to here. So it would be accessible for wheelchairs and whatnot. So it seemed to make sense to try to stay on that same contour line as much as we could out to the north.
So that would kind of argue for building a bridge rather than trying to tie into a steeper bank further up.
Yeah, there
And
would
which
be
would
a little.
be fine. Which would be fine.
Yeah.
And the other comment I have is, there is a fair bit of erosion right at where that culvert discharges, the Church Street culvert discharges. It would be great if you could include some bank stabilization there. Nothing too crazy with stone, but maybe some bioengineering with some stone. You know where I mean? Where the Church Street culvert discharges.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean here, the northern part, or
Northern? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
yeah.
it discharges, where basically where the stream channel begins.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense given the fact that there is a bit of a stone embankment there currently.
But there's an eroding bank opposite the culvert. So that's the area I'm thinking that could use some stabilization.
Okay.
I have a question on this. We're making a trail through here, but I'm not understanding, frankly, why. Why are we connecting to Church Street? What is the point of that?
Well, as I had mentioned, I think the town has a vision to have a pathway that sort of meanders through the town, and one of the places that I think there is a vision that the pathway would come to is someplace along near this church, in whatever direction, who knows at this point, but we wanted to cross over to get to at least offer that opportunity. Otherwise, if somebody were just to come into this park, they could come and sit, and then they would just have to head back out towards the center.
If you were putting in some information or a kiosk, that to me makes sense. You could come down there, but I just don't. I'm not sure I'm missing the attraction of Church Street. Like, I'm not following it. I have no problem with trails and paths, but usually there's a point to it, and I fail to understand what the point is. Like, okay, so the town has a vision, and the vision is to run a trail to Church Street. I'm not sure I get that.
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, this is Dave Ross, Chair of the EDC.
Yes.
And I think, as most of you are familiar, the EDC's been tasked by the Board of Selectmen to implement the town center vision. And we had identified in that process this parcel as one area for some form of passive recreation. And it was also identified that we need to make the town center more pedestrian friendly. As we all know, the intersection there of 4 to 5 roads, Barry Loring, the head of Mass DOT District 3, called it the Kelly Square of Upton.
So one of the things that we're looking at is building a historic walking trail through Upton. It would come down past Memorial, down past the Super, into the center of town. And then this trail would allow you to get over to Church Street and then follow along in front of where the Body Fix is now up to Pauly Dean Bradish House without really having to get into the center of town and to keep pedestrians away from there. And we also felt by putting this resting area, seating area with the kiosk, as has been mentioned, it gives people opportunity, if they're on that walking trail or anybody downtown, to pause, look, and be able to see the different buildings that are historic downtown, understand what used to be there, out of the way, step back from 140, not really on the traffic. So I don't think it's as much of a goal to connect 140, the parking lot area, a town hall over with Church Street. It's just that's kind of the flow to get us 100 feet back from the state highway and all of the traffic and everything going on there, making it a little more passively eco-friendly type plan. So there's also, from the EDC side, economic development, we thought it might be beneficial to people visiting the Soul Fuel Cafe. They want to get a coffee and then be able to make their way over to sit on a bench in the shade in this nice weather. You know, bridge there would be helpful. But at the same time, we're not looking to benefit one specific business. That's just a ancillary benefit that the EDC is interested in as we're concerned about businesses. So hopefully that helps, Thomas, explain some of that theory, but it's also still very early in the planning stages, and we'll have to see what is available and what type of funding we can get for that.
Thank you, David. Do we have other questions or comments?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, why it's not that I object to a park, but this is prime real estate. Why wouldn't that be allowed? You know, is it not developable land? And if it is developable, and we do put a park there, does that mean the park isn't really protected from development in the future? Or is this, you know, once the park is in place, is the intent to keep it a permanently protected green area?
So I might be able to touch on that a little bit. In terms of environmental constraints, the 30-foot no disturb zone sort of cuts out a fair amount of the property for development. It would be fairly difficult, I think, to develop that with anything that wasn't sort of an impervious surface in this case. And then the steep slopes on the other side of the property also sort of make it make it more difficult, especially considering sort of taking apart a steep slope that close to a wetland isn't usually too favorable in terms of environmental permitting and that kind of thing. I don't know if there are any other site constraints necessarily.
Yeah, I'll jump in if I could, Madam Chair. Just on the developable note, as we know, a lot needs to have frontage on a public way if it is to be developed. This does not have frontage on Church Street. And as we can see from the map here, that section of Warren Street is currently blocked off. And so instead of it being a neglected piece, it seemed to be consistent with the overall downtown vision to make it a node for some, as Dave, I think, ably noted, some pedestrian-oriented activity. So it's not really, this would not be, we couldn't do housing on this site or anything like that. So instead of it being just an undeveloped, semi-neglected parcel that it is now, we wanted to, I think maybe folks, I'm sorry we couldn't set the stage a bit more before we got into the details, but I think folks are maybe probably aware that the parking lot area is scheduled to be restriped in the not too distant future, as well as Dave alluded to it, the reconfiguration of and realignment of Route 140 in the vicinity in front of Town Hall. So this is just sort of a few different things combining at the same time, but this would not be a development parcel.
we have other questions or comments?
Yeah, Paul, glad you mentioned the town hall parking area and reconfiguring it. Would you plan to put a handicap accessible, disabled accessible parking space near where that trail begins? As part of the redesign of the markings in the parking lot?
I'm not sure what the current plan calls for. I don't have it in front of me, and it's kind of in the DPW's realm. But that said, putting a handicapped accessible space on one end of the parking lot versus the other end of the parking lot, I don't think that. I think that's completely doable, and I'm sure BSC was accounting for it already, but I think we would want that to be the case if this were to be developed that way.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
There's one right there.
Hold on, let me just rotate it. Sorry.
And what's happening with Warren Street? Is that going to be integrated into this, or is that going to continue to be closed off?
Yeah, through the chair. I think it's unclear at the moment exactly what the path will be. Oh, I hear some young people involved. But I think there's some, speaking with the town manager, there's still a little bit of research we need to do because it's there. I don't think this is going to be restored to through traffic anytime soon, but it's unclear of the origin of the road. Not to get into sort of planning history nerddom here, but how that section of Warren came to be a public road in the first place would guide how we would discontinue that road, if that makes any sense. So it's a question of whether the town would, if the road would be discontinued, the question would be whether the town owns that, or would the adjacent property owners own to the midline of that road? That is a question yet to be determined. But I'll just give you my personal preference and discussions we've had would be that yes, if we were to be able to formally discontinue that road, and that requires an act of the selectmen and town meeting, that does provide some additional space that would be potentially incorporated into what we're talking about.
And this is just a plan showing at this point what the proposed parking lot would look like. And yes, there is accessible parking on the town hall side for easy access to get into town building.
But yeah, we could speak with but I'm sure we can speak to the town manager and DPW about having another spot, say in the opposite kitty corner of the parking lot.
Also, as far as Warren Street goes, parking has been an issue for this downtown redevelopment. Could Warren Street be used for parking instead of a park or whatever else?
I don't want to speculate. I mean, I think it probably could, but I think that hasn't been discussed at any meetings or just any things I've been at. If it's publicly owned land owned by the town, it could be used for any purpose I suppose the town sees fit. But once we get past the existing parking lot, though, I think folks are aware it does slope up fairly steeply. So there's certainly room for vehicles, but it might not be certainly wouldn't be overly useful for people trying to access town hall.
I think from a conservation standpoint, keeping the area that's being described as a pocket park would be more environmentally friendly as a pocket park rather than making that into a parking lot, because we wouldn't want that paved.
Oh, Just to be clear, Madam Chair, I was not insinuating or proposing we'd be paving over the currently wooded lot
Mhm.
over here. I thought we were talking about parking on the existing Warren Street.
Right.
If anything, I would want to remove as much impervious surface as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just asking about Warren Street here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry for any confusion.
Okay, any other questions or comments that we can provide useful information? So I would think that for Paul and David and Ethan, conservation is generally in support of this idea. And thinking that there is the intermittent stream there and some wetlands that we would have to look at designing where the trail would go, and then also the meeting space around those constraints.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's helpful to know because yeah, we are constrained on two sides here.
Yep.
And
So
it would be very difficult to find a space to put
Mhm.
a gathering spot that wouldn't go inside the 30-foot no disturb.
So is there more information that we can give you that would be helpful?
No, I think that I think the pervious versus impervious pathway seems to make a lot of sense that we would want to maintain it as a pervious surface. And I think there's, more discussion to come on how the park sort of the pathway, how it works to the north and where it crosses, and maybe have some more context to why that is what it is. But I think at this point, it certainly satisfies everything that we were looking for, that we can certainly move forward with the design process.
Now, for the Conservation Commission members, we require a request for determination of applicability for this type of project?
I would think we'd need an order of conditions.
Okay, so this would be a notice of intent. So that would be the type of filing that we would request be submitted to us. So it's called the notice of intent.
Yeah, and that's not a surprise for sure.
Okay. So that's the main goal of this meeting, I think. Let you know what paperwork we would need.
Okay.
So any other questions or comments? This is a very interesting project in a good spot in town, from my perspective.
Great.
Okay, so
Yes, thank you to the commission. We appreciate the feedback.
oh, you're welcome.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
for attending. Okay, just let us know if you have other questions and need to attend another meeting.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have 7:25, a discussion for Five Fork Farm. Do we have someone here for that? I'm not really seeing Grace here. Bill, do you know if they're coming tonight?
I have no idea.
I can give you an update from SVT's meeting with Grace. The SVT Stewardship Committee remotely met with Grace on, what day was that? On the 19th. And Grace discussed her need for parking, and as she's discussed with the commission. And the SVT committee voted to be supportive of potentially that 40-acre parking proposal that Grace proposed to the commission. And that was about it. There were Grace did mention, and I'm not sure what the status of this, that she's has, I don't know if maybe the NRCS has done some additional testing, looking for a water source on the west side of North Street, down low, and they drilled a pilot well and they hit bedrock at like 13 feet, which was disappointing. So she said that they need to reevaluate exactly what they want to do with the west side. Do they want to improve the agricultural land but not have a water source? So water has raised its head as an issue. So, but I imagine if they have a problem developing the pasture down there for agricultural fields, I'm not sure what that would say about their proposal for expanded parking and visitor access. So, and I don't know, Grace was going to, it's too bad Paul jumped off so quick. Grace was going to talk to Paul about planning board permitting. Oh, Paul, you're on.
Yeah, Mike, I anticipate. I wasn't planning on it, but I heard the discussion, and I was seeing if Grace was going to join. Through the chair, if it's okay, I can. I'll just give a brief update. I was able to meet with Grace yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And they're exploring a concept for providing some parking, given their recent increase in profile and activity over there. So they will. I sort of outlined the process with the planning board, and so I anticipate that they'll be designing and submitting something to the planning board in the near future to address the parking situation.
Okay,
so that's what I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Hi, I had one more thing I wanted to add regarding the parking. I know Alan had expressed concern that we would be affecting the view in a negative way. And if that greenhouse is to be moved and parking is to be put there, we actually get a better view of the lower, the west side parcel. So, I do feel like we are still working within our promise to the town to maintain that view.
Any other discussion about Five Fork Farm? Well, thank you, Mike, for the update there. And 7:35, we have discussion about hiring forester for Mechanic Street, Sevens Farm for a land use plan.
Okay, well, two things of note. I did send out kind of feelers to about half a dozen foresters, all of which were qualified to do forestry for the birds forest management plan. And I heard back from, indirectly to them, I heard back from John Clark, who many years ago did the Peppercorn Hill forest management plan around 20 years ago now. He was just starting out as a forester at that point. Now he's kind of mid-career. And I also heard from someone else, I can't remember his name right now, who was interested. And I asked them both to send a sample of their recent work. And I did get one from John Clark. The second forester works with Phil Benjamin, and I did send out a feeler to Phil, and Phil's kind of I think drifting into semi-retirement. So he recommended this second forester, who did express an interest. And so we did get, we also got the grant notice of our grant from the DCR just today. They will cost share the forest management plan with us. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe request each of those foresters, and maybe if can send a request for proposals to a few other foresters to basically provide a quote for doing the forest management plan for. So this is for Mechanic Street and Stephens. And then we can, maybe it'd be great even at the next meeting if we could select a forester and get them out in the field to complete their field work before the snow flies.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
With Stephens, are you going to try to incorporate any invasive management or anything? I'm just curious about that. Stephens
possibly, sure. I think you know, the forester would touch upon the fields. I'm sure, and sure that could be part of it. We already have you know, part what we could give the forester is the a report that the Mass Fish and Wildlife prepared about Stephens, so they wouldn't necessarily be starting from scratch.
Okay, because around the edges of those fields and into the woods a fair bit, there's barberry all over the place.
That's right. Yeah, there's barberry. There's some.
There's everything.
Yeah, but there's especially there's a red maple wetland that is just loaded with barberry. You know, the canopy is red maple, but the understory is like barberry. And then there's multiflora rose, and like Marcel said, there's other.
Yeah, so I was just curious about that because that's expensive. You know, that's expensive, and so we'd want to, if we're going to try to incorporate that, we should, you know, make sure that at least it pays for itself, right? That whoever we hire understands that, you know, we can't be writing a check to somebody.
Also, you know, given how bad the invasives issue is at Stephens, what kind of movement will there be between the Mechanic Street parcel and Stephens? Because you're just going to transport seeds and, you know, these invasives are very opportunistic. Then the other concern I have is that these are, one parcel is conservation land, the other parcel is unprotected. You know, do they need to be handled in different ways? I still wonder if we should be making this one big project or break it up into two different projects.
That's a good point. We could ask for two separate plans, conceivably, done at the same time.
Or a two-phase plan or something.
Yeah, that's worth thinking about what way to do it. But the other thought was, even if we had a forest management plan for both parcels, because there is some, you know, potential, say, in terms of accessibility, you might want to, if you want to do any forestry on Stephens, you know, accessibility right now is very, very limited. I mean, you really don't have it. So perhaps you could assess Stephens to do forestry from Mechanic Street. But that's the kind of thing that I think the forester would have to weigh in on. But in terms of a bigger picture, is once this is done, I kind of envision us doing two basically land management plans, similar to what we did for the North Upton open space. But Stephens would be its own plan, which, because you're right, it's unrestricted town land at this point. And then Mechanic Street would be a second plan, and that one we would, you know, simply partner with SVT to prepare that plan. So I think we would need two separate management plans, but we might be able to just economy of scale wise have one forester prepare forest management plans for both.
Yeah, I think that's what you want to do, Mike, for, you know, economies of scale and just cost. But sure, you can manage both parcels differently. That's not a problem at all. But you want, if you're going to do land management or any kind of forest management, you're going to want to do that at the same time.
I'm also envisioning a huge uproar from all the folks who work to preserve the Mechanic Street property about mowing down some forest there. We're seeing, you know, I'm hearing about Warren Brook from a lot of people. They do not like what we did there. You're going to tell them it's for the birds or tell them it's for wildlife management. They can tell them anything, but it's still ugly. And I'm not sure it's going to have a lot of public support on the Mechanic Street property. In fact, I think it might be fought.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think, well, a couple things. One is it'd be great just to know what we've got out there. You know, what kind of forest stands we have. You know, what condition they're in. And secondly, we do, if you recall, there's a like the first page of the forest, or one of the first pages of the forest management plan, asks the landowner to identify goals for the property, and you know, can range from, you know, income to habitat or some mix in between. We did that when we did Warren Brook as a group. I think we each voted, you know, how to score that sheet, and that the results, whatever we decide on as a group, is provided to the forester, and that to some extent guides the forester's management recommendations.
Well, I'm all in favor of, you know, getting an inventory of what we've got out there, what its potential is, but you know, after that, I'm not sure where to go with it.
Not everybody doesn't like the Warren Street stuff we did, Marcella. A lot of people like it. They like what's coming back. And they like the change in the habitat and reverting it back to a younger forest. So not everybody, certainly the people that don't like it are always the loudest. There's no getting away from that. So
and I get to hear about it. Yeah.
So that's, I just want to let you know, it's not like everybody hates it. A lot of the people I run with think it's great and they'd like to see more of it. So, you know, they just don't, you know, they're not going to give us a pat in the back or anything.
Yeah. You know, I think we need to do a lessons learned, not a big, huge, massive document, but just a lessons learned from the Warren Brook project. And that might guide any future projects. I'm not so much in terms of to harvest or not to harvest, but just how the whole thing went along, like especially communications with the public.
Yeah, we did a bad job with that.
Yeah, we were rookies at this, and you know, you shouldn't have a situation where people are surprised that an awful lot of loud work is basically going on in their backyard. So I think a lessons learned thing would be very useful for Warren Brook, for everyone who was involved. You know, everyone on the commission, and also Tom Dodd, who's been, you know, like to see what his findings are. He's been monitoring the birds, breeding birds in those open areas. But that's another topic to be discussed later. But
now, Mike, moving this forward, Mike, where you mentioned getting RFPs out to people and going forward with what we see our next step to be, would we need to schedule a time for our next meeting, or would that need to go a little bit further?
Well,
would it be?
I've already, again, contacted about 6 or 7 foresters.
Okay.
Most of which I didn't know, but they were, and most of them though were, you know, they had 508 numbers, so they were kind of centered in Central Mass for the most part, and they were trained in forestry for the birds.
So
heard back essentially from 2. So what I think we could do is maybe just contact those people again, but this time asking them for a proposal to do the work. And that could happen. Like I could put something out tomorrow, to these people, and just request a proposal prior to our next meeting.
Okay.
With a quote, basically. And so I could send them a map. What I didn't do the first time around, I didn't send any. I just said it was 200 acres. I didn't provide any information about what the property was like. Could send out some imagery or some maps, and this could happen pretty quickly. I'd really like to get them out there this fall, before the snow flies.
So Mike, do you need a time slot for our next meeting to continue this? Because we have a
please.
busy.
Yeah.
Because how about 7:50 before Governor's Landing if they show up this time? Because we already have a 7 o'clock, a 7:20, a 7:30, an 8 o'clock. So how about?
Can I ask a question? Would people like to if we get like 2 or 3 candidates, would people like them to be? Would you want to invite them to this meeting? And I'm not sure call it an interview, but at least be able to ask them questions. I remember we did for Warren Brook Foresters. We kind of had interviews for a couple of people. By the way, Rupert, unless I missed it, Rupert is not. Rupert did the forest management plan for Warren Brook, if you remember him. I didn't see his name listed as forester for the birds, so I didn't contact him. I can double check that, but anyway, would you want an opportunity to talk to these folks? So if that's the case, we might need a half an hour or so. I would think.
I think it's a good idea to talk to them. Just see what questions they have, and just not really interview per se, but just kind of chat with them. I think is a good idea.
Yeah, they don't have to travel. They can just get online. It wouldn't be a big deal.
I think 7:50 would be good, and then we can push back Governor's Landing since they've continued 3 times with us because they didn't show up. So 7:50, and then we can have Governor's Landing at 8:30. Right, 7:20. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. We have reviewing the draft CR for Mechanic Street.
I don't think we have a draft CR for Mechanic Street yet. Do you mean the management agreement?
No. Do we have to write the draft CR for Mechanic Street?
Yeah, I had volunteered to do that, and then Meredith and I talked a bit, and Meredith was going to do the first draft, and she's been kind of busy, but she's pretty close to having a first draft ready to go.
So,
but unless I missed something, I don't think we have that yet. The CR that's included in the packet is actually the Pulte's CR.
Okay, so we'll skip the 7:40 for reviewing the draft CR.
Well, can we talk about the management agreement? Was that included in the packet?
What's it called?
The SVT Mechanic Street Management Agreement.
You think that's the file name?
I don't know that, no, but that's what it's that's the topic.
Okay.
Laura had emailed it about a week ago or so.
Scrolled through quickly. I don't think I saw that.
No,
All right,
I don't think.
Maybe that didn't make it into the packet.
Yep.
But anyway, that it went through legal review.
I have it. I have it here though. I can pull it up if you want me to.
You want to talk about it?
Okay.
Did what you presented to Meredith seem, I mean, I felt pretty comfortable with what we finally did agree on. Is there anything that's been changed since the last time we looked through it?
I think there were a couple of minor changes, but basically not. Maybe Bill's on. He may know more about this than I do. But basically, it's I think SVT considers it ready for Chris's signature, and that's if you scroll down a bit to the end of it. There's a signature block for Chris to sign and Lisa to sign. I think Laura considers it ready to go, pretty much. And the town council comments were pretty minor.
Do we have any other questions or comments about this document?
Chris, would you entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign this agreement?
Yes. Yep. So could you have a motion to authorize the chair to sign this document?
So moved.
Do a second?
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
David, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, so that's a unanimous decision of the Conservation Commission. So, did Alan vote?
Yes.
Okay, so we will get this signed and then we're all set with that. So, good job. So, how about if we go back up to the top for our reports? How about administrator's report?
All right. I sent one out earlier today. Can pull it up. All right, so I issued one of the things I was looking at this past 2 weeks is the stormwater bylaw and trying to figure out what Dave was doing and how I should treat building permits that need sign-offs that is a brand new house and if they need erosion and sediment control. So I kind of looked through it. It was Dave's opinion that he thought the stormwater bylaw needed a little tweaking. That was just his comment. And so I just kind of decided for this new house at 150 Glenview, where there is no wetland nearby, but it is, it would fall under the stormwater bylaw, that they should do an erosion and sediment control plan. And that's what I had them do. You guys have any comments on that or want to, give more input on how I should treat the stormwater bylaw? I'd be happy to hear that. Let's see what else. Just a few things with the financials. I'm trying to understand how they've been doing it, and I found a few errors. There may be more, but tried to rectify the error that I found, and hope to get it. It just, the whole thing seems a little convoluted to me, but I hope to understand it better so we can have better numbers for the meetings. We've had a few inquiries, but not very many. I did do site visits. I went out to Cobbler's Creek. There were a few erosion control issues there. I guess as a new owner, Dave Burns bought the project off of Kevin Lobesser last April, and he promised to get right on top of it and have somebody walk the whole line and fix the issues. So that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions about that or any comments, I'd be happy for that.
Mary, under inquiries, number 1, where it says 44 Milford Road, Gasco, what is the historic nature of that?
Yeah, so there was, I could only find one filing having to do with that property, although it would seem that there might be more. There was one determination issued in 2012, and it was just for the expansion of the building. They weren't moving, beyond the already built upon footprint. And I couldn't find plans. or
Pull it
anything.
down. No.
Mary, behind
No.
Casco,
What's, are there more?
there's structures back there in the woods. I don't know if that's what they're referring to or not, about the historic stuff. I remember being back there, and I can't remember exactly, but I thought it was kind of interesting, the stuff back there. But it's back in the woods if you follow the brook back. There's stuff out there. I don't know if that's what they're referring to for historic. I don't.
Well, I think they just wanted to know a history of what filings have been done on the property.
Okay,
as far as I can
okay.
tell.
All right. I
Maybe
just wasn't
there's more
sure
to it.
because,
And
I don't know. All right, very good.
And obviously, I feel like it's kind of hard to find things in the files, both in the files and on the computer. So if someone knows of a big filing that they remember from way back when, please let me know.
Mary, has David got around to doing his data dump yet?
No, I don't. No, he hasn't.
Did we have any need to discuss the determinations or the NOI for 105 Crockett Road?
You guys need to go lay down. Go on. Go.
I think you're talking to your dogs, Andy, not you, us, right?
I sure hope
Yeah,
you're
I'm
talking to your
Sandy.
dog.
I'm really not that tired right now, but I'll think about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
So, Mary,
I
do
hope
we have
that's
to?
all I said.
Do we need to discuss the 2 determinations from our last meeting or the NOI for Crockett Road?
I don't think so. I was pretty comfortable. It was pretty simple. I can bring them up if you want to look at the specific conditions.
Do we need to vote to approve those?
I have to check that. In my understanding, you guys voted to close the public hearing. Did you guys vote to issue? I should look at the,
Not yet. No, so we
Okay.
can vote to issue them tonight. So
Yeah.
can we have a motion to issue the 2 determinations from our last meeting and the 1 NOI from our last meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Okay.
Marcella, I.
Ellen, did you do the chat thing?
You did the voice thing.
Oh,
I
okay.
did the voice thing.
Okay, so it's a unanimous vote of the commission to issue the 2 determinations and the 1 NOI for 105 Crockett Road. So, very good. So, anything else? Questions for Mary? Now, Mary, I think there was a question about how we deal with tree issues in town.
Yeah, if anyone wants to talk about that, I did call someone today who I noticed there was tree cutting probably less than 50 feet from a wetland, maybe 30. And ended up, found out the number of the person and gave him a call, and he wasn't really aware that he should contact the commission. He did pull down 8 trees, which is substantial, red maples. He said they're rotted, and one had fallen I don't know whether it was a whole tree or a piece of one had fallen on his truck. And so, yeah, the trees probably needed to go, but just wondering if you guys, yeah, it sounds like the typical protocol here has been that you want people to call and at least let the commission know, but there's no formal like permit or anything that gets recorded, anything like that.
Usually the tree, did he do it himself or did he hire a company?
He hired a company.
Yeah, because the companies normally tell the landowner, they're usually pretty good.
Yeah.
About letting the landowner know your wetlands, whatever, and they need to speak to the town. So I don't know why that company wouldn't have said that to him.
Yeah,
They're
maybe
not
I
all
need to,
that good about it. Some of them either ignore it or don't understand that they have to do it.
I know in the past, if people had hazard trees, we were pretty lenient with how they treat with those.
yeah, so I can call, in this case, the homeowner and just ask what the tree company was, and I'll follow up with them because it should be the tree companies that are tipping off the homeowners. I agree. They should know.
Do you have
And I
any
don't
other?
complicate it for people. I think just letting us know that they're going to do it and why they feel it needs to be done. I don't think we should have like a form to fill out or, some process. Just, let us know.
So that just kind of leaves me with the question of, all right, well, 8 trees is one thing, but what if they want to, push back, 20 feet closer to the wetland and they're cutting down, a whole section? It seems like that might be a determination though, right?
Yeah, I think where we've just done it informally is if it's potentially like a hazard tree.
Okay.
Dead trees that could fall on someone's driveway or truck or
Right.
house.
Right.
If it's more than that,
Mm.
then I think you're right. Needs some sort of a filing.
I know in the past on South Street, we had a couple of residents who were concerned about flying squirrels flying from their trees to their house. So we did allow them. We did allow them to remove those.
That's not going to stop them, If
No.
the squirrel wants to get into the roof of their house, it's
Yep.
gonna.
Yeah,
Yep.
they can go a long way.
Yep. So does that help you with that question, Mary?
Yes, that's helpful.
Okay, let's see. Anything else for your report?
Anyone have any comments on the stormwater bylaw? I'm just curious.
I'll have to admit I
Oh.
haven't given it a whole lot of attention, but
Okay.
I could if you want feedback.
No, that's okay.
Mary, is it the bylaw or the regulations? Do you think the bylaw needs to be modified?
I think I was looking at the regulations. I don't remember, but yeah, it seems like the amount of work, like if I were to follow it exactly, what they would have to do for a single family lot seems rather extensive because most of the lots are approximately 2 acres. So if you're going to build a single family house, it ends up going above the kind of the minimum trigger. So I just had them submit kind of the minimum thing, and it seems like it should manage the process. Now, if the lot has steep slopes or they're going to install their own drainage system, well, yeah, I think they should do the bigger, heavier stormwater permit. That makes sense to me. So,
What did
So-
you say Dave was doing?
well, Dave, it looks like in the first few years he didn't issue any stormwater permits at all. I was just kind of looking through, and then the past few years he's been doing more. Seemed like he was doing, he issued, I don't remember, maybe 4 or 5 last year. A few of them were the simple erosion and sedimentation control, and there maybe was 1 or 2 that were the more, involved stormwater permit. There's like 3 thresholds. It's pretty complicated. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, wow, this is kind of a big deal for like your general contractor to kind of figure out. But
I think in the past, if it was a subdivision, we would default to the planning board's review from their consultant.
Yeah, the bylaw doesn't really, I don't know where it is applies, but for a subdivision or some larger project, the bylaw really, is superseded by the notice of intent process and the planning board process. So it's only these small lots that don't otherwise require any review that get caught up in the bylaw and stormwater bylaw, as I understand it. And I think it'd be great, Mary, if we could simplify the regs, make your job easier, and make the public's job easier to interpret it.
Yeah, that was kind of and I think that must have been what Dave decided, that it was just a little bit clunky and hard to deal with. So I think I'll approach it like I'll have everybody do the basic permit if they're building a new house and it seems appropriate, and they're not doing it NOI. And then if it is bigger, then we'll do the more involved one.
How about
I agree.
our administrative report?
All right, let's see. Do you just want to look at the money, the financials? Let me see if I can pull that. See if I can pull that up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I think these numbers are a little bit better than what I gave you last time. Like the community garden, I think it may actually have $600 in it after moving money around and stuff like that. I don't feel confident that these land stewardship numbers are right. It seems like Kenny, his numbers may be as much as 6 months off, is my understanding. He's not trying to keep it, everything up to date. And now I understand why you guys are having these cheat sheets, so you guys can understand, because you guys need to know if the money is there before you pay any bills. So I'll try to maintain it, or we'll try and then work with a new person to make sure we kind of, at least we'll know how much money is coming in and how much we've paid out. So if there's a positive balance, even if we don't know exactly what was in the account. So, and I want to kind of get together with Denise and pick her brain on what she used to do as well.
Well, thank you. That's kind of what we've been looking for.
Okay.
As far as a financial update, one thing would be good to have, like for each meeting, also indicate what we've spent money on, like
Okay.
having another segment.
Oh yeah, we do have a voucher to approve.
Oh, okay. What's the voucher?
Let's see if I can get the voucher. All right, so this I think was mainly stuff for you guys did for the parking area at Rockwood Meadows. And Mike, I wasn't sure for the Weston Nurseries one, is that something that they were going to build a town, or did you pay them and I should reimburse you?
I paid them.
Okay.
So, and I have barking dogs. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, let's see, the Lowe's I paid. The Weston Nursery I paid, and and that's the gate. The bottom one I think is the gate, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I paid that.
And these should all come out of the land stewardship account. It makes sense, except for the ESRI, which comes out of just the general fund.
Mm-hmm. So do we have a motion to pay our bills?
I just want to add. I just want to add one thing. There is another bill that we've accrued. I purchased 2 posts for the Warrenbrook Gate, and that was going to be billed directly to the Conservation Commission's Koopman account. So sometime that's going to show up as an expenditure.
Okay, so could we have a motion to approve paying the 4 items here plus the 5th one that Mike described?
So moved.
Let's do a second.
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Andy, I.
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Marcella, I.
So with one abstention, we have a unanimous vote of the commission. So how about the website?
Website, mostly just the work for the Hike Upton, working with Mike and Dave. That's all complete. If we need to do any updates, we can, but pretty simple stuff.
Excellent.
I may have to submit one of the maps has an error on it, and we may just have to fix that and get it to you. I hope that isn't going to be too much of a hassle.
Nope. As long as I have the map and you let me know which property it's for, simple to update it.
Okay, David, I'll get in touch with you and let you know what the change needs to be.
Okay, thanks, Marcel. Yeah, I think Mike had another one for me to fix as well.
Okay, might be the same one. All right, we can deal with that later though.
And with the website, Joe had mentioned that at some point they would have each group maintain their own websites. And he said that would start once they have their administrative person for the upstairs in alignment. So it's not anything upcoming. So how about open space?
Still planning on closing on the Mechanic Street property 2 weeks from Friday. And for those that may be interested, Sudbury Valley Trustees is holding a walk this Saturday at Peppercorn Hill from 9 to 11 a.m. And Meredith Houghton and the Native Plant Trust's Bob Seckler will lead the walk. If anybody's interested, you don't mind registering with SVT and coming on down, that would be great.
Excellent.
Bill, what part of Peppercorn are they going to?
Last time we did this, we walked back and forth. We're definitely going to the overlook on Peppercorn Hill. Last time we did this, they did it, a group walked up to the top of the hill and then walked back to the parking lot. And then I led a separate group that did the loop trail.
Is it? But we meet at the Rockwood Meadows parking lot, or
you meet at the Rockwood Meadows, the East Street parking lot. That's correct.
What's the purpose of the walk, Bill?
Show off the property.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if there was a point, if you were looking at vegetation or wildlife. I just was curious.
Well, I'm hoping that the Native Plant Trust Bud Seckler will have some information about the flora, but we'll see. Presumably. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Do we have anything else for open space?
Not right now, no.
Okay, thank you. And how about land stewardship?
Nothing much here. Got a bunch of trail work to do, but I think we're just plugging along.
Okay, so now if we go to new items, we already talked about SVT, Mechanic Street, and Upton Ridge. We're waiting for that to come back from the town council. And we did talk about 22 East Street, 24 East Street, and the 105 Crockett Road. SRI we talked about, and meeting. What do you think about meeting audio recordings, having those on our website?
I already did it for the last few meetings, and I think the commission decided last time that they pretty much wanted them up. So
okay, excellent. Okay, now the next one, holiday meeting schedules. Thanksgiving is the one that's really one that we have to talk about, because our meeting, the second meeting in November, is the day before Thanksgiving. Do we want to have that meeting or no?
No.
Okay. Okay, so no, but And the December one is not close to the holiday. Any other discussion about November? So Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think that the second December one would be right after Christmas, the 28th or something.
Okay. Okay, so not Thanksgiving. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Now, do we have to vote on this one? That we're not going to meet on the day before Thanksgiving?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's our overall decision. Now, for ongoing items, does anyone have anything to discuss about ongoing items? And thanks, Mike. He's shortened this out a little bit. So hearing none, do we have anything? Oh, do we have meeting minutes that we need to approve?
I started one set, but I didn't finish.
Okay. So any other questions or comments for right now?
I have a question, maybe for land stewardship, and sorry to keep this meeting going, but.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So on Chestnut Street, we have that easement between the new house and the railroad. Is that correct? Because I went through there. Okay, so I went through there the other day, and the homeowner was a little irked, and then I threw the Upton Conservation Commission member card out, and it changed quite a bit. So I'm just curious, how is that going to work? What is that all about? Like, aren't we allowed to walk through there? Isn't the public allowed to go through there?
Yeah, and we have not had an opportunity to flag it and cut the trail, but you know, that's one of the to-do things on the land stewardship committee's list.
Okay, no, I mean that's fine. I was a little, because I thought because we went through this about moving the trail and all this, so I figured the homeowner was very much understood what was going on, and maybe they did. They just didn't want me going through there. But it's not easy to get through there. It's all greenbrier. You gotta hack your way through. So, but I was just kind of curious about that. I just mentioned to her. I said, this is an easement. I'm just trying to get out back there, and she said, well, it's private property, and I said, I know, but I believe there's an easement. If I'm not on it, I'll get on it. I just don't know exactly where it is. And then I said, look, I'm with Upton Conservation Commission, and then everything changed. So, so I just, I'm not, I didn't get into an argument or anything, but clearly, they didn't like the idea of me being there. And I just was wondering what the plan was for that. And I don't know if we need to, mention anything to the homeowner or not.
We should just keep them in the loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a comment on this. This came up at work. The new person who has Diane Judd's job, Amy Bonina, she actually lives very close to there, and she's actually really upset about that. She's like, I thought there was an easement, and she's all gung-ho to maybe in a few months, join land stewardship and get some neighbors together to help build a trail. So that's kind of her vision. So
send her my way. Hey,
I know. I told her that you guys would be delighted, and she has a lot of energy. So I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah, if you want to just give her, let her know that she can contact me, and we can invite them to a land stewardship meeting and maybe get a team of people out there.
Yeah, I think she was thinking in a few months when she's kind of settled into her job, et cetera.
Yeah. No, I don't think we'll be doing anything right away. We've got a whole lot of other stuff to deal with. So,
yeah.
But thanks. That's really great. Thank you for letting me know.
So actually, this is Bill. I have a question for Tom. Did you find any markers, any iron rods or anything while you were? Because I believe the trail has monuments of some kind on it.
Yeah, there's all kinds of markers out there from Gear and Hanlon, and you know the rods with the yellow marker on top. There are stakes with them. There are markers all over the place.
That's good. Well, some of those are probably the center line of the trail easement.
Okay, I thought they were property line markers, but I don't really know. But you could see also where they went through, because they were shooting lines. You could see that they cut down all the saplings and everything.
Yep.
And you know, stuff like that. But the markers are easy to find. It's not hard to find them. I just wanted her to tell me where the easement was. I wasn't trying to bother her.
Well, there is something unusual about that easement. The easement agreement is not on their deed specifically.
Okay.
There's a sentence on there that says subject to all easements. There's a separate easement agreement with Alfonso. So it's kind of an indirect path from their deed to the actual easement.
Okay, because I know originally we were having that easement in between a couple of the homes, and the builder, I guess Alfonso, they thought that was a bad idea, so we decided to push it to the outside, you know, along the railroad there, which I thought made sense.
If you want, I can call up I can try to call up the plan. I have it ready. If anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, the plan has the easement on it, so that according to the easement, they put some sort of monument in. According to the plan, rather, they put monuments in to show the easement.
You know why it
Can
didn't?
you guys see it?
No.
There's nothing up.
We see a
I see a menu.
Right.
Yeah, so looks like you need to click on the plan in order to open it.
Give me a second.
Tom, did you ever think that conservation would give you some clout?
I did think it was funny. It was almost like me saying, "Do you know who I am?" I did find that to be a little humorous. I just didn't want it to get contentious. I was just walking through. I wasn't doing anything.
We did have Conservation Commission hats at one time.
Maybe you were a little scary. Did you have your camo outfit on? Were you carrying a gun? What were you doing?
No, I was carrying a stick.
A stick? Oh, God.
They got a big dog that doesn't like you either.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Can you guys see it now?
That's right. She saw the sticks, thought you were going to hit the dog.
I would have if I had to.
There is something up there, Mike.
Can you see the plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right. So let me just blow it up a little bit. Oops, too much. So the easement, if you can see my cursor moving around, is just this circuitous little path right along the edge of wet, which is probably, like Tom mentioned, really great buffer greenbrier habitat.
Yeah, because it is. So I remember we allowed a retaining wall. Does that go along the edge of the retaining wall?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
I think it's
just above the wetland?
Yep.
Okay, because you've got that, there's actually a slope there, and it slopes down into the wetland. So is it up on the slope, or is it at the base of the wetland, the base of the slope?
We would need to go find the rods, I think.
Okay, all right. There are plenty, like I said, there are plenty of them out there. I just assumed they were property markers.
It looks like every corner has a rod at the outer edge of the easement. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be easy
Where is
to
the
find
house
this.
in relationship to that easement, Tom? Can you just kind of give me
The way I'm looking at it now, the house is, you see the straight line along the easement, right along the wetlands. If you go to the right, it's kind of right up there.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how many feet from the trail the house would be, just to give me an idea of, if they're going to see people from their house, or if we need to think about some vegetation to, you know.
I think they will see people from the house.
Yeah, you definitely will. I mean, you can see people if they walk in the wetland, for that matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So you don't. Sorry.
I was going to say, considering it appears that it's 95 feet of frontage from the right side of the property to the Iron Rod, I guess is you've probably got 120 feet where the house might be. Yeah, you're probably talking 30 to 40 feet from the trail.
Is that all?
Yeah, conceivably.
Well,
Yeah, it could be based on it. It really could be because, I mean, I wasn't walking in the wetland. I was walking in the uplands, but I was trying to stay off there. They have like a fence along their property. It's actually a nice looking fence. It's pieces. It looks like almost like saplings, kind of laid up together. I mean, it's a nice looking fence. Anyway, regardless, I was trying to stay off of that as far as I could, and I was just kind of hacking my way through. And the dog went nuts, and then the people came out and saw me, and she kept telling me it was private property. And I kept saying, no, I'm looking for the easement. I'll get off your property. Do you know where the easement is? She kept going on about private property, and that's when I threw the Conservation Commission card.
Mhm.
So is the fence strong enough to keep the dog from
The dog
harassing
didn't
anybody
come
on the
over the
trail?
fence, but the dog could if it wanted to.
Right.
He chased the Amazon driver out of the driveway. Guy ran right across the street, right across Chestnut Street without looking. And he was fast. The guy was pretty fast. I was chuckling over it because I'm glad it wasn't me.
That's good. The Amazon guy distracted the dog so it didn't bother you.
Right. So anyway, that's all. I didn't mean to carry this on.
Oh, no.
I was just curious about that and the easement, and
Yep.
I wasn't looking to aggravate any homeowner. I was just trying to figure out how it all
Yep.
worked. So
As
good for us to know that.
when there's more activity on that easement, maybe the person will have less questions. So, do we have any other questions or comments for tonight? So, hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good job. Good
Good
job,
night,
you guys.
everybody.
Have a good night.